Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome. I'm Allison. Welcome to those of you who are watching on Facebook. Welcome to those of you who are watching on YouTube. I'm Allison from The Mother Speaks Tarot. Sorry about the mirroring. I'm doing this from my phone. I'm learning an editing app, but haven't quite learned it just yet. So if you're watching me on YouTube, please subscribe. I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers. I'm so excited about that. And I really hope y'all are enjoying me reading my book. This is my first book, Perception, the Two Yet One. Book 1. It's on it's action, adventure, love story about twin flames, and they're superheroes too. So this is the first book. So for those of you watching on Facebook, I can't respond to comments. I'm just going to read and upload it to YouTube for everyone to enjoy later on. All right. All right. Let's get started. Chapter 13. Problems. 7 a.m. Tuesday, June 7th, 2011. Bear Creek, Montana. Like the other boys, Sonny had been given a straw cowboy hat and a pair of leather cowboy work boots for chores such as grooming and learning to saddle his gentle mare, Daisy. Today he was going to learn something he'd always wanted to learn: how to ride her. "Okay, men," said Lloyd. "You've checked the girth and adjusted the stirrups. Now, Daoud, please hold Daisy's reins while I mount." Daoud held Daisy's reins while Lloyd grabbed hold of the saddle horn and then swung his foot up into the stirrup. But Daoud's handkerchief fell out of his pocket to the ground, which spooked Daisy a little. She stepped to the side, taking Lloyd's foot with him. In an instant, Sonny jumped and grabbed Lloyd before the old man went tumbling to the ground. As Sonny unhooked Lloyd's foot from the stirrup, he realized that he was holding Lloyd horizontally mid-air, and that Lloyd and all the other boys were gaping at him, completely astonished. Slowly, Sonny lowered Lloyd so that his feet touched the ground and then set him upright. Sonny shoved his hands into his front jeans pocket. "You okay, Lloyd?" he asked, as if nothing was strange about holding a man midair. "I weigh 210 pounds, Sunshine," Lloyd murmured, as if trying to get Sonny to understand what he had just done. We work out a lot at home," replied Sonny with a shrug, a little embarrassed, but he didn't know why. "I guess so," affirmed Lloyd. The whole rest of the day, everyone looked at Sonny a little weirdly. Change in perspective. 1 p.m., Saturday, June 11th, 2011. North Highlands, California. Luna had refused to allow Ming and Zen's betrayal of her and, she realized in a particularly low moment, of poor Bo too, get her down any longer. Today she was down by the pool dancing and singing along to music in her pale pink bikini. Her curvaceous body looked great in bikinis, and this one looked especially good on her because it fit, meaning the cups were actually big enough to cover her annoyingly big boobs and kept them from popping out as she danced. Her pale skin slathered with sunblock. She was glad to be spending time outside in the sun, because if she didn't get a little sunshine every now and then, she noticed that she became a bit depressed, and she didn't need any more of that. During this difficult time in her life, she needed every happy-inducing thing she could get, and to add to today's mood boost, she was listening to her favorite song, Owl City's Fireflies, because it induced feelings of happiness and joy. Although Gertrude had said they could relax, Luna's parents were still on edge. That morning, all she had asked permission for was to spend time outside in the backyard. And to get it, Luna had to promise her parents that she wouldn't take even one step off of the property and would take her safety whistle with her everywhere she went. They gave in, and now she was finally enjoying herself somewhat, when out of nowhere she had a sense that someone was behind her by the tall wooden fence. She turned off her music and whipped around. No one was there, but she heard and felt a thud that seemed to have originated from behind the fence in the neighbor's yard. "Hello?" she called out. No one answered. Pardon me. She hurried over to the fence and peeked through the knothole. She didn't see anyone. "I said hello," she yelled. No one answered. She thought about the men in black and the guys with the gold dragon tattoos. "There better not be any stalker guys around here, 'cause I know kung fu and I'll kick your ass," she yelled, putting her Ming on. She heard nothing, no answer or noise at all, just silence. With a humph, she ran back to her iPod boombox. Anger seemed to keep her from getting too scared or freaked out about things, and she was learning to employ it. It had even reduced her crying and panicking. She put on a song that filled her with confidence, LaRue's Bulletproof. She turned it all the way up and sang and danced, while keeping a diligent eye on her perimeter at all times. Deep inside, she wanted them to find her. She was feeling a great deal of power through her anger and wanted to punish those who thought they could hurt her. Change in perspective. 9:30 a.m., Sunday, June 12th, 2011. Today, Luna was in her neon rainbow bikini. The cups weren't as big as her pale pink bikinis, but covered her boobs well enough. She stepped outside onto the patio, and as soon as she did, she heard a grunt from the yard next door that was very clearly made by a person. Excited to meet one of her neighbors, she slid the sliding glass door closed quickly and called out, "Hello?" No one answered. She hurried over to the fence and peeked through the hole. A muscular, tattooed guy with dark hair, dressed in only a pair of black sport shorts, was working out on the weight bench, pressing the huge weights as if they were filled with helium. She looked at his exposed wrists immediately and found them empty of tattoos. Time to make new friends, she thought. Well, just so that you know, I say she thought because the thoughts are in italic, but you can't see that because I'm reading it out loud. Okay. "Hi, my name's Luna. I just moved in." She held her hand up and waved, jumping a couple of times so that he could see it over the top of the fence. The guy in the weights on the... The guy set the weights onto the brackets, sat up, and narrowed his eyes at the fence, frowning. "Oh, sorry," she called out. "I hope I'm not bugging you." With a small smile, the guy tilted his head and shrugged. "Hey, why don't you come over? Why don't you come on over so I can see who I'm talking to? I'll unlock my gate," she said. The guy's smile dropped into a frown again. With a sigh, the annoyed guy stood up. In no hurry, he walked out of his yard and to her gate, but she opened it before he had a chance to knock. She stepped out of her backyard and was surprised when she had to look so far up. He looks like a supermodel, she thought. "Please excuse me, Miss Luna," the guy said softly, reaching for her hand. Smiling cheerfully, she gave it to him. Regarding her with his very clear blue eyes, he bent down to give the back of her hand a kiss. His eyes locked with hers, and his lips lingered on her hand an extra second or two. Chills flashed over her entire body, propelling her into a fit of nervous giggling. His cologne wafted up into her nostrils. She inhaled deeply. He smelled good. "Your house has been empty for at least a year," he said, letting go of her hand and standing upright, his head practically in the clouds. He smiled at her. His smile was contagious, and she smiled back. But then he glanced down at her chest, licked his lips, and bit the lower one. Her smile faded. She crossed her arms over her boobs, covering the spot on her hand that he had just kissed. "So I guess I wasn't expecting anyone from over there to talk to me," he finished with a little chuckle. "My name's Wes Fredrickson. Very nice to meet you, Miss Luna. It's not every day I get to meet such a gorgeous young woman." Luna blushed deeply. "Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Very nice to meet you too, Les." Wes. W-E-S. Wes seemed taken aback, pissed even. "Geez, guy, don't get your panties in a bunch," she thought. "Sorry, Wes," she said a little tersely. He relaxed. "So, not hanging out with your boyfriend today?" "Oh, no, I don't have one. In between boyfriends, 'cause you just moved, huh?" No, I've actually..." Why am I telling him this, she thought. "Never..." You don't have to answer him, she thought. It's none of his business. "Had one..." What the... Why did I tell him that? Why couldn't I stop myself? The guy's face went blank. His eyes widened slightly, and he quickly looked her over. She crossed her arms tighter, and then crossed one leg over the other as she stood. "Really? How old are you?" he demanded to know. I'm 17, almost 18, in January." Again, she thought. What are you going to tell him next? Apparently anything he wants to know. Her tall neighbor's face darkened, slowly. Her stomach turned. This guy was big and strong, and now he was getting scary. She backed up a little, glancing around her perimeter. No one was around. He seemed to notice that he was making her uncomfortable. "Oh, my apologies, Miss Martin." "Miss Martin, I hope I don't frighten you. I was just thinking about something." "Oh." His stare was too strong, invasive. She looked at anything but him. Then, strangely and alarmingly, she needed to get away from him. Everything in her was telling her to run. Now. "What's wrong?" he asked. She didn't have time to answer him. To her utter relief, they heard the sliding glass door at the back of Luna's house open. "Luna! Luna! Come clean up this mess you made with your cereal," called out her mother. Luna was grateful for the interruption, but annoyed at being called like a kid by her mother. "Guess I'd better go. Nice to meet you. Rattled, she couldn't remember his name. Not wanting to piss him off again by messing it up, she just left. As she pushed through the gate, she turned around to wave at her good-looking but creepy neighbor. As if stunned, he weakly waved back. Luna closed the gate and took off around the corner to go back into her house, glad to be away from him. Change in perspective. 7 a.m. Monday, June 13th, 2011. Sonny had been at the ranch over a week, and today Lloyd was going to assign them new horses. After Sonny choked down a little breakfast with his coffee, Lloyd assigned a young white horse to him, Sundance, Lloyd's newest rescue stallion. Because of his age, gender, and especially his name, I knew he was for you, Sunshine, said Lloyd. "That's pretty cool, Lloyd, thanks," replied Sunny. Lloyd left Sunny and Sundance alone, and the first few hours, Sundance was nervous and twitchy, frustrating the crap out of Sunny a few times, until he realized that Sundance knew when he was frustrated, sad, or angry. After that, Sunny made it a point to be calm, cheerful, and non-threatening around the horse, and by the end of the day, Sundance had allowed Sunny to completely brush him out. In only a few weeks, Sundance allowed Sunny to ride him. He and Sundance became very close. The horse nudged Sunny often, and somehow, Sunny knew Sundance was doing that because he loved him as much as he loved Sundance. And he had a feeling that the horse was thanking him, too. Soon, Sunny realized that he was happy at Clearwater Boys Ranch, caring for Sundance and avoiding everyone else. Nobody seemed to mind how withdrawn he was and left him alone. The old couple had informed him at dinner a few times that they were always there if he wanted to talk, but he never wanted to. At the ranch, people respected his wishes. No one judged him, no one yelled at him, no one hit him or said hurtful things to him. He had become comfortable there and didn't even really want to go home anymore. He was connecting to himself and to nature, and he felt much stronger, like a man. Change in perspective. 8 a.m. Friday, July 29th, 2011. Today, Sunny was given free time and saddled up Sundance to explore the terrain, his favorite thing to do these days. "Remember, stay on our property," warned Lloyd, shading his eyes as he looked up at Sunny seated on Sundance. "You're safe, only on this property." "You've said that before. What do you mean?" As usual, Lloyd didn't answer. He just turned around and walked away. "I will," Sunny called out as he made sure his straw cowboy hat was on tight enough. Lloyd waved one hand to acknowledge that he had heard Sunny and kept on walking. "Okay, Sundance." "Ha!" Sunny kicked Sundance lightly with his boot, and the stallion took off in a gallop, with Sunny laughing and hanging on to his hat. Staying on the property wasn't going to be a problem. He had acres and acres for Sundance to run along under the open sky. Smiling wider than he had in years, or maybe ever, Sunny lifted one hand into the air as if he were on a roller coaster, closing his eyes to feel the wind as Sundance carried him along. Several miles away from and out of view of the ranch, Sunny finally dismounted and let Sundance graze. Standing in the middle of wide open ground, he felt that big sky country was quite an appropriate term to describe Montana. He sat down on the ground cross-legged, plucked a piece of grass, put it in his mouth to chew on, and then looked around. Fat little honeybees were busily collecting pollen from the wildflowers that surrounded him. Closing his eyes, he lifted the front of his cowboy hat and then turned his face up to the sun. It felt good, the hot summer sun giving him energy. He felt something land on his arm just below his t-shirt sleeve. He opened his eyes and checked his arm. It was a bee. "Hey, little guy, aren't you cute? Don't sting me though, dude." Sunny closed his eyes again, opened his hands, and rested them palms open on his knees. "Bees, come to me," he thought. He knew he was being silly, but he was all alone and didn't care. He felt something on the surface of his jeans, on his thigh. He opened his eyes. It was another bee. Whoa! Closing his eyes again, he called out with his mind to the bees a second time. He felt another touch, and then another. He didn't open his eyes again. He just sat silently, calling them with his mind. 2, 3, and then 4 more bees landed on him. Pretty soon, he could actually feel the weight of all of the bees that were resting on him. He counted 22 of them. Quite uncharacteristically of him, he giggled. How did such a gentle soul end up here? Sunny's eyes popped open. It was Kitty on her butter-colored palomino sky. One by one, and then by little groups, the bees lifted up off of Sunny and flew away. Kitty jumped down off of Sky and watched them go. Sorry, didn't mean to scare off your only friends. Sunny didn't answer. He didn't want any trouble. She walked over to him and sat down cross-legged across from him. He did his best not to scowl at her. His hair had grown about 2 inches, and he shook his bangs to cover his eyes, lowering his head a little. You're here all summer. Don't you have friends or a girlfriend at home you miss? No. So you do speak. Sunny didn't say anything. Why don't you talk? What are you afraid of? Nothing. Everybody's afraid of something, not me. Well then, why do you have to be alone all the time? Sunny didn't answer. What about friends? Don't you want any friends? Or are you the kind of angry boy who's afraid of all types of love? You don't need to practice your counselor thing with me. I don't need friends. I'm not angry about anything, and I'm not looking for love. Ha! Not angry. Right. You're here because you have problems, she stated with a small chuckle. So what are they? Why are you here? What are you looking for? Nothing. Nothing? Nothing at all? Sunny was silent. Kitty stared at him as if she was trying to figure him out. You don't have to be so defensive. I could be your friend. I said I don't want any friends. Sunny sighed. His tone changed. I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt you. A smile seemed to touch Kitty's eyes. Don't worry about it. You're too young for me. She chuckled. Sunny didn't reply. He'd slept with too many of Wes's girlfriends to believe that. The mirth faded from Kitty's eyes, and she now looked at him as if she was about to say something of a sensitive nature. Grandma and Grandpa said that your mom. Jarred by the mention of his mother, Sunny met Kitty's gaze with a burning intensity, but she continued on, albeit gently. Passed away when you were very young. I was 5. Oh, wow, that is young. That must have been so hard. I'm very sorry you lost your mom, Sunny. Angry now, he looked away. His mother's death always made him angry. You know, I know what it's like. I lost my parents too, both of them. Her words took all the power out of his anger. He deflated, ashamed of himself for being so self-absorbed. He couldn't look at her. That's right. Lloyd told me about that. I was sorry to hear that, Kitty. He dragged his eyes up to hers to show her that he understood her pain. That's fucked up. Thanks. Yeah, it's fucked up, all right. She looked upward, a wistful look on her face. You know, I don't remember my dad, Jack. Not my own memories, anyway. I was too young, a baby. But my dad, Gary, was the best. The whole time I was growing up, he told me all about Jack and how much he loved him, his soulmate, his sacred partner in life, and I felt like my dad, Jack, really was there, in spirit. Sunny remembered how he always felt his mother's spirit. As though reading his thoughts, Kitty asked, Do you ever feel like your mom's spirit is with you? Sunny's Sonny felt his eyes and nose warm. He couldn't answer, or he might start bawling. He cleared his throat. "You said you don't have a girlfriend." She seemed to pointedly switch gears, as though as she went on, Sonny heard her really drawing the conversation back around. "Don't you want to find your sacred partner, your soulmate, the love of your life?" "I do. My dads were so happy when they were together that the memories really helped my dad Gary through all his chemo treatments and all the other bullshit he went through with the cancer. He fought so hard to live because he loved me. Love from others keeps us alive. You can't go through life alone. It's unhealthy. People are social creatures. You have to let someone in at some point." Kitty seemed to be waiting for a reply. Sonny sighed deeply and stared down at nothing in particular, and he thought about the little dark-haired girl at the beach. I think I already found the love of my life and already lost her," he thought. He wasn't about to say that out loud and risk sounding like some cheesy romance novel, or worse, make it painfully obvious that he had no idea what falling in love was like. Kitty was quiet. He glanced up at her. She was studying him, concern plain on her face. Sonny could tell she suspected something and looked away. Again. "Oh," she said. "So you're the broken-hearted angry boy. Is that your shtick?" Sonny just lowered his head a little more. He wished Kitty would stop questioning him. He didn't know how to explain his feelings or confusing life anyway. "Oh, you really had someone." Her tone changed to one of comfort. "You'll get over her. What's her name? Did you just break up?" Sonny still didn't answer. He just scowled. She sighed, stood up, and brushed off her jeans. Okay, I'm going. But I'm going to pray for you, that you find your happiness." Sonny was a bit stunned. No one had ever told him they would pray for him. It was so kind, and especially after how he had just acted with her. He felt bad now. "Thanks, Kitty. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a dick. I guess I'm in a bad place right now." She almost laughed. "Duh! That's why you're here. But don't worry. It's okay. I hear a lot of this kind of shit here." They chuckled weakly. "Well, I'll let you get back to connecting to Mother Nature," she said in her confident tone of voice. She walked back to Sky and then swung up onto her saddle. "I'm here if you want to talk," she said. "No pressure." He managed a sideways grin and waved goodbye to her. With her own sideways grin, she waved back and then rode away. Sonny was glad and relieved that she had left. He was happy just being alone, free from others' concerns. "She's pretty cool, but," he thought. Kitty was lovely, and her personality was great, but Sonny didn't feel anything but friendship for her. Change in perspective. Meanwhile, in Sacramento, Luna and her parents sat across from Agent Gertrude Fleischer at their kitchen table. The agent had stopped by to inform them that she had found the perfect place for them all to go. "It's the answer to all of your problems." "All right, Gertrude," said Jim, rubbing his hands together with great enthusiasm. "Can't wait to hear it. Where will the spontaneous Martin family live next?" Gertrude smiled elegantly. "I have secured a secluded home where I'm quite certain no one will ever find you." All three Martins exchanged grins. "In Siberia, Russia." All three smiles dropped, and now they exchanged shocked glances. "It is close enough to a town for food and other supplies," said the agent, as if that made it tempting. No one said anything. Gertrude cleared her throat, handed them a picture of a cabin surrounded by a snowy forest, and tried again. It's superb skiing and snowboarding terrain. It even has beaches. Once again, she got nothing. She put the picture back into her briefcase, locked the case, and stood up. Jim stood up, and then Lisa and Luna stood up too. I apologize, Gertrude, said Lisa. It's just... Siberia, cried Luna, as if the agent should already know why they didn't want to go there. I understand that it isn't Hawaii, said Gertrude, obviously insulted. But you see, an island would be too small a place to put you. You could be found rather quickly. I'll leave you to sleep on it. Just say the word when you're ready, and we will take you there. But, said Jim, can't you find another place? Somewhere a little less depressing than Siberia? Siberia is a beautiful land that has a bad rap because of the way the Soviet Union used it, said Gertrude. I do hope you change your mind, but yes, of course, I will search for something else. She held her hand out. As always, I'll be in touch. Thank you, Gertrude, said Jim. And again, we apologize. We appreciate all you and We appreciate all you and MIS have done for us. It's just that, well, we have a teenager who already has a hard time finding friends. Dad! Yelled Luna. Her face turned red. She crossed her arms and then turned away from him in a huff. And, continued Jim, since the men in suits who attacked Luna were no real threat, and we haven't seen a dragon guy in years, we don't feel as panicked and frightened as we did when we first came here. Maybe we'll just give Sacramento a shot. Stay here. I see, said Gertrude, still miffed. It was quite a task finding the Siberian location, but I will continue to search for a place that is more acceptable to you all. Hang on. It's cold. When it's cold, my nose runs a little bit. Okay. She turned on her heel and walked briskly to the door, which Jim rushed ahead of her to open. I'll be in touch, she said politely to Jim as he opened the door. She nodded once to Lisa, turned on her heel again, and stepped quickly across the lawn to a shiny black, unmarked car. MIS gave her her own driver? Asked Lisa. She must be good, replied Jim. Maybe we just messed up. No, we didn't, Dad, Luna said. There's just no way Siberia could be good for us. You never know, Lisa shrugged. No, replied Luna flatly. Somehow I do know, she thought. I feel like we need to stay away from Siberia. So now, I don't exactly trust Gertrude anymore, she thought. Change of perspective. That night after dinner, Sonny asked for some blank paper, and since then had been busy in his room. It was late now, almost 11:30. He sat on the floor, the ranch's laptop glowing in front of him and papers all around him. As he worked equations on one, his back was to the door, which he'd left slightly ajar. Statistics and percentages. Sonny jumped. He hadn't heard Lloyd come in. Tell me, Sunshine, what are you calculating? Sonny gathered up his papers into a neat stack, trying to hide them. Oh, it's nothing. No, tell me, what have you found? Asked the old man as he sat down cross-legged on the floor across from Sonny. Sonny pressed his lips together and didn't answer. After what Caitlin had said about his doing math for fun, he realized that other people didn't usually do that and wanted to hide his hobby, his habit. Are you embarrassed? What is embarrassing about a man finding answers? Lloyd asked. Sonny felt his mood lighten up. He hadn't thought of it that way. He picked up his pencil and one of the papers and pointed to information he'd written on it. Okay, today I had exactly 22 honeybees on my person. I had to get the information from the web, but I'm relatively certain that Montana's honeybee population is approximately... Lloyd didn't move. Didn't even blink. He just sat there as Sonny told him how he had calculated statistics on honeybee populations in the United States to then calculate the rough percentage of Montana's bees that had landed on him that day and the probability of it. Sonny finished and stared expectantly at Lloyd. "Okay, sounds correct," offered Lloyd. Sonny dropped his shoulders and tossed his pencil and papers. "I know. It's stupid. Why am I always calculating stupid things? Who cares?" Lloyd looked at Sonny in a way that seemed to take all of Sonny in, not just everything about how he looked right then, but also his soul, even his memories. "How many times did Ralph hurt you, Sunshine?" Change in perspective. Luna was gazing out of her bedroom window at the dark, the moonless night. She was thinking about her problems again, thinking about Gertrude, her parents, and her family history, thinking about Ming and Zen and even Bo. "Yeah, I probably won't be sleeping tonight. Again," she thought. Since the agent left, she'd been feeling angry about the possibility of Siberia being her future. But now, as she thought about what her dad had said about not making friends, melancholy was creeping into her ever-working mind. She was so sad and disappointed about Ming and Zen. "I hope Bo is okay hanging out with them," she thought. "But he's homeless. Maybe since he has no money, if they're hanging out with him, he's their real friend." She didn't like thinking things like that, but she didn't really know what to think. She had been conned by con artists. Change in perspective. Lloyd's question, "How many times did Ralph hurt you, Sunshine?" had pulled the emergency brake on Sonny's train of thought. Lloyd waited patiently, calmly staring Sonny in the eye, but his clenching jaw told Sonny that he was bracing for the answer. "Only twice," began Sonny. Maybe it was the freedom and independence Sonny had been experiencing. Maybe it was the distance between him and his family. Maybe it was his love for and trust in Lloyd. Or maybe it was just time, but he wanted to tell this man everything. Suddenly, Sonny remembered flashes of what seemed like a dream of a third time, but it felt like it had happened way before the snake incident. The flashes showed him that it was nighttime. Sonny's underwear was wet. He was stuffing his wet sheets into the bathroom hamper. His father cornered him in the bathroom. Ralph was drunk and used his belt on Sonny like he had on his brothers. Wildly. That's all he could remember. "Or maybe 3 times, murmured Sonny, not taking his gaze from Lloyd's. "I tried really, really hard to be good." Lloyd dropped his head and shook it slowly. "Damn it," he said under his breath. His face grim, he looked up at Sonny, tears in his eyes. "Is it 2 or 3? asked Lloyd. "Why aren't you sure?" Sonny's eyes welled. His lips began trembling. "'Cause one might be a dream. I can't really remember." Lloyd reached out and held Sonny tight, and Sonny broke down on his shoulder. "Oh, Sunshine, I'm so sorry. Ralph Jr. should have stayed. Curtis and Bradley, they should have come too." "Why did he do that?" sobbed Sonny. "Why does he hate us?" "He doesn't hate you, Sunshine. No, your father is not that kind of man. You know how he was raised, the same way. And then there was the war. You see, some men's hearts are too damaged to weather the atrocities of war. He's been ill, Sunshine. His spirit weakened. Only love can heal him now. Sunny sat up and wiped his nose with the palm of his hand. How can I do that? He doesn't even want me around anymore. He has less faith in me than in any of my brothers. Only you can answer that question. But you already know that, Sunshine. Listen to your heart and follow it. It is never wrong. Lloyd gathered Sunny to him again and let Sunny cry on his shoulder as long and as hard as he needed to. It all flowed out of Sunny. Losing his mother, his lifetime of Ralph's iron rules and punishments, his estrangement from his brothers, his recent rejection by his entire family, even the pain of losing the little dark-haired girl. It felt like every tear he had ever stifled was now flowing out of him, bursting forth as if a dam had broken, because it had. Change in perspective. Luna had been combing her memories of Ming and Zen, searching for some kind of indication that they weren't being honest with her, and she had found some, quite a few actually, and all about Ming. Ming was always coming home from dates with cuts and bruises. She and Zen said that she was getting into catfights with her boyfriend's ex-girlfriends, but I bet she was actually mugging people, she thought. Zen had said he and Ming were both getting new phones. I bet they were getting normal phones that didn't have encryption applications so that MIS wouldn't find out, she thought. She even did her best to make sure I didn't call the cops on the men in black, and then when I talked to her on the phone, she was super insistent that I tell her where I was. God, I'm so stupid, she thought. But the feelings she had for them, as if they all belonged together, what was that about? My intuition was screwing up, she thought. Or maybe I'm just crazy and don't really have intuition. Maybe just the suggestion of me having intuition made me think I did, she thought. And now, even though she'd betrayed them too, her trust in her parents had been compromised. She felt a little estranged or distant from them. She didn't feel like her mother was still her best friend, and that thought really hurt. Her low thoughts brought her sorrow to overflowing. Sinking by the cure, playing in her mind, she flopped down onto her bed and curled up into a ball, clutching her old teddy bear. Hugging him tightly, she burst into tears. Where do I even belong? She thought. She realized that it wasn't just her parents she didn't trust anymore. It was everyone. I'm so freaking tired of being lonely, she whispered. Luna had learned how to cry silently. She didn't need her parents knocking on her door every time she burst into tears. Into her pillow went the silent wails, screams, and tears. Her teddy bear was nearly flattened by her holding him so hard. She drew in the deepest of breaths to let out the deeply rooted, incredible pain. She did so silently and, therefore, without the benefit of comfort, the price for her privacy. Change in perspective. Sunny cried on Lloyd's shoulder for at least half an hour, and all the pain from his entire life poured out of him. Nothing more would come out. Sniffing and wiping his nose with his hand, he sat up and out of Lloyd's embrace. Lloyd handed him the box of tissues from the dresser. Sunny took it and blew his nose with one. Emotion is like water. If it collects, it builds pressure. It's best to let it flow. Lloyd let out a heavy sigh before speaking. Do you need me to call the authorities? No, Please, Lloyd, no. That isn't something we want. My brothers would hate me even for telling. You know, I don't know why they care so damn much about a fucked up house with fucked up memories everywhere in it, but I don't. I'll leave ASAP. Please, please don't call. That would just make more problems. I'm begging you, Lloyd. All right. I won't. Lloyd relented in a calming voice. But I'm glad to hear you want to get out, Sunshine. Sue and I talked about it. You can stay here until you get on your feet as an adult. Speechless, Sunny blinked at him. Your brothers. They can come too if they want to. Let me say this. There comes a time in every man's life when that man must decide that he's had enough, that he will put his foot down and stand up for himself and what he feels is right. I do that. I've done that, but... Sunny trailed off, searching for the words. I suggest you reflect, Sunshine, Lloyd said as if reading Sunny's thoughts. Only a man who is honest with himself, who knows himself well, can understand others. That is when he can see things clearly and in relation to everything else. How could I even begin to understand Dad by knowing myself? We're completely different, he thought. Okay, I'll try that. Try. If you say you will give it a try, that is all you do. But if you say you will do it, then you will do it. Understand? Sunny thought about what Master Yoda had said in the Star Wars saga and realized he had already begun to understand that particular theory. Yeah, I think I actually do understand. Good. You're wise, Sunshine. I can tell that you're an old soul. Sunny had a feeling Lloyd was right about that. But compliments always made him feel uncomfortable. He lowered his gaze to the floor. Thanks, Lloyd. Why do you look as though I've insulted you? I don't know. Sunshine, look at me. Sunny dragged his eyes up to look at Lloyd. You are a good person, and you are a good man. No one had ever said that to Sunny before. Filled with a surprising relief, he felt his eyes mist as Sunny continued, He felt his eyes mist as Lloyd continued. You deserve good things because you haven't done anything wrong. You didn't deserve the way you were raised and all the problems that developed from it, but it happened that way because it was meant to, and we'll find out why later. But now, here in this moment, Sunshine, know that you are powerful, very powerful, special, and deserving. I have a strong feeling that you are here for a very important and specific purpose. I expect great things from you, but don't yet know why. I found that I'm always right about these things. This is my gift. My intuition is. Whenever you feel discouraged, remember my words, because I mean them. I mean them because they are true. You are good, special, and powerful. Say it and believe it. Sunny stared at Lloyd for a moment, not really feeling it. I know you don't feel it yet, but just say it. Sunny swallowed and then drew in a breath to say it. I'm good, special, and powerful. Something changed in Sunny. A feeling of confidence resulted from the great truth he'd just said and felt. Reeling from the immediate results, his mouth opened and he looked up at Lloyd in surprise. Lloyd's eyes twinkled as a smile came to his face. Say it again. I am good, special, and powerful. Sunny had put involuntary emphasis on the words good, and powerful. Lloyd smiled widely. Okay, so that was chapter 13. I hope you all enjoyed it. See you next time. See you next time.